Okay, so hello, it's Michael McCarthy. I'm Director of Music Theatre Wales, and I'm here with Tom Colt, the composer for our new opera, Violet. Welcome, Tom.
Hello.
Thank you. So I want to start right at the beginning in a way. You and Alice Birch, the librettist, first met at the Opera Creation Academy at the Aix-en-Provence Festival. Did either of you had any idea that you were thinking about an opera? Were you wanting to write an opera already?
I don't think Alice had necessarily thought about it, but I think was intrigued enough to go along to this thing and see if it sparked anything off. I wouldn't say it had always sort of been a burning ambition. In many ways, it really wasn't. But there'd been a couple of times when I've sort of been intrigued enough, and I didn't have a sort of list at all of like storylines that I wanted to do, but I did have a sort of sense of some of the qualities it might have, or some of the qualities that the kind of text that would be right for me might have, and and then I read I read Alice's play. Revolt, she said, Revolt Again, which is the first thing I read of hers, and that was a sort of unbelievable punch in the gut, and it was incredible. And she sent me a few things of hers to read, and I went to see Revolt, and I just thought she was the most extraordinary writer, and also would write a really good text text for music. And we didn't start collaborating straight away at all, and we sort of waited a bit, but we would send each other music and text.
So what was it that you felt about Alice's writing that, as you've just said, would make a good opera?
She has a kind of a precision and a concision in the way she selects words with a scalpel, and even down to sort of punctuation level is very precise, and so that there's a real tightness to how things operate, but also a real kind of unpredictability, and things will take flight into this sort of dazzling imagery as well. So it's not tight and well behaved all the time at all. It's precise, but then with this amazing fantasy and capriciousness about where it goes, and that it never goes where you think it's going to.
And it's really interesting. You talked though about the precision of her writing, and yet here you are as a composer taking her writing into something else, turning it into music, giving it space, giving it a different dynamic. How did she take to that?
I think she's been very lovely, and just she's sort of given me a certain amount of carte blanche. I think the probably for both of us it was really important to that we sort of trust each other. Mm. So I think that was the process of us, sending us stuff and working out how each other's brains work, and so I think she sort of trusts me as a composer, and trusts that I'm not going to, that I will respect the text. Sounds a bit sort of reverent and a bit boring. But be excited by what she's given, and not to sort of consciously work against it, but then to bring my own world and to bring it to life. I think that she was very up for that.
So what is it about writing an opera that you find exciting? Because it's a big undertaking, it's a big commitment. It takes you into a dramatic and a theatrical space, which is not a concert space. What's it that's different for you?
I was quite excited about working with extra elements that I normally do. I'm normally dealing with, you know, I'm curating someone's time, I'm curating a listener's time, and I'm filling it with as many wondrous things as I can. And you do get to do that with an opera for sure. You have longer time, so you sort of need to think about how you curate that, possibly even harder. But also there's stuff there for you to work with. So there are words that you might find really exciting and might lead you to compose music in a different way than you would normally. And scenes have shapes, and characters have motivations, and they have reasons for, you know, what is the character feeling and doing at this one time. How might they be singing? All of these extra things that are really helpful and kind of provocative in the composition process. And then there's loads of the artistry of other people coming in and doing stuff. So, you know, the artistry of a director, the artistry of the set design and costume design, and the lighting and sound design, and all this exciting stuff that is totally not in my head. Was, you know, if you're writing an orchestral piece, of course you're collaborating with the musicians and the conductor, but you're sort of it's a bit more, this is 15 minutes from my brain. This is an opera is exciting because it can take you to other places that your brain on its own wouldn't have taken you to.
And you go on that journey with other people, with collaborators.
Yes.
It genuinely does take you into new space. So that it's wonderful. I mean, the oft-quoted thing about theatre is it's a grubby place. You know, it's where you bring in a certain thing and you really get a hold of it and you turn it into something else or bring it to life in a fresh way. So that process is happening now. How do you find rehearsals?
I'm enjoying them a lot. It's my first opera, so it's the first time I've been in this kind of rehearsal room, certainly with my own music, and it's pretty amazing. The singers are just really going for it. They're fantastic. It's a fantastic cast, and just I've seen conductors work obviously before, but Andrew Crawley is phenomenal in the score. He knows the score inside out. But seeing Jude Christian, you know, bring the director, bringing her kind of the sort of intelligence and clarity and sort of emotional literacy about how she brings to the room and to how she's sort of working this thing through is really amazing to see. So I'm enjoying it, and I'm also sometimes leaving them to it, and they need just time to learn the notes, because there's a lot of that's very challenging and so on, and sort of work out how scenes work. But yeah, I'm having a good time.
Well, it must be interesting to see your music being sort of physicalized in a way. Yeah,
it is, and also it's partly reminding. It's all flooding back because of pandemic delays. It's actually been quite a long time since I finished the piece. I finished it in good time for its 2020 original premiere. So, you know, and then it hasn't been foremost in my mind musically. So it's actually quite an amazing thing to have it all sort of wash over me again.
So for me, it's interesting you mentioned the pandemic, because of course that's been a huge trauma for all of us. It's been a big break in all of our routines and everything. And part of that, and part of the idea of order collapsing, resonates very powerfully with the opera and the premise of the opera, with the disappearance of time, and therefore everybody's lives starts to fall apart. How does that make you feel about this piece now? You know, apart from the extraordinary prescience of it, does it make you see the piece slightly differently?
No, but that's partly because my work is done, and so a lot of that kind of I guess recontextualization comes in the directing process and it comes in the audience. So it's not really my business. I've done the best I can to make the notes really good and to like make the thing shaped well. And there's, but also there's an enormous amount that is, potentially resonant and potentially, has a sort of metaphorical value with regards to all sorts of issues, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. But that's sort of up to other people in a way.
That's so that for us as an audience to hear and receive and think about as we wish, and to reflect on as we wish. Yeah, but the piece is the piece, and it can play in different times in different ways to a different audience.
Yeah, I mean, I always hope that it might have, that any resonance like that, it comes from it being from us trying to make it a sort of rich and intriguing world, rather than, we certainly never set out to say we're going to write an opera about this.
One final question about the central character, Violet, who within this collapsing world sees an opportunity for her life to change. She takes a positive attitude towards all of this. So when you were thinking about Violet and writing her, you've commented a couple of times on she was bored, or she starts in a bored place. I suspect actually there's more to it than that.
Yes, I mean, it sort of depends how it's staged, but also there's plenty in the text that is, in the first scene we're told her husband says things like, I see scratches on your arm running along like ticker tape, and it is more than boredom, and it's more, she's in a world that in many ways she's not suited for, and maybe no one is. It's this very sort of insular patriarchal town, and she is not made for that world, and so it was a very interesting character to write, and she sort of evolved as well, because there was at one point she was going to be yearning for something that she didn't have, and we basically got rid of it, and because we sort of didn't want to tread certain tropes of female leads in storytelling, and we thought it would be more exciting if she was more excited, and she just immediately then sort of pops off the page a bit more, and she's, in a sense, everyone in the opera in the village is a victim because the world is collapsing in on them. But it felt interesting to explore Violet not thinking of herself like that at all.
So it kind of comes from within. It's almost an instinctive and emotional reaction with an unknown destination. So it's personally motivated in a way.
Yeah, and she ends up being the author of her own destiny as well, which when the world is collapsing in on you is quite difficult to achieve.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you.